Boatbuilding News, the podcast. Let's do it. Welcome to Boatbuilding News, the podcast, a series of engaging interviews with key individuals from within the marine industry. I'm excited. This is going to be epic. Hey, Oliver, welcome to the Boatbuilding News podcast.
Thank you very much, Hollie. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to meet you. So give yourself a little introduction.
My name is Oliver Heer. I'm originally from Switzerland. I'm a professional offshore sailor, and I've recently successfully competed in the Vendée Globe Race 2024.
I can't wait to talk to you about that. So before we go into that, let's start a little bit at the beginning. Tell us how you got into IMOCA sailing, especially given the fact that your route was quite different from the usual, wasn't it?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So I think the normal route would be to start short-handed sailing in the Mini 650 class, then maybe move up to the Figaro, then to the class 40, and eventually to the IMOCA class. I did it very, very different. About 11 years ago, I moved to the UK, trying to kind of earn a living with professional sailing. And through, over a couple of years, I ended up suddenly in Alex Thomson's team on board Hugo Boss for his 2020 campaign. And that was kind of my first touch point with the IMOCA boats and the Vendée Globe within his teams. Within his team, I then worked myself up to be the boat captain and then also his co-skipper. And that was kind of my career into the IMOCA sailing. And once Alex told me that he will not compete anymore in the 2024 edition, he kind of then told me, but Ollie, you should really give it a go. And I had a good think to myself. I then asked my wife and my mom for permission. And here we are. A couple of years later, I've just finished my first one.
Oh, amazing. I love the fact that you didn't say, I thought you were going to say, ask my wife for advice, but ask your wife for permission.
Well, permission first and then advice second.
Oh my goodness, I love it. So now let's talk about 2024 Vendée Globe competition. So you ran one of the leanest teams on the circuit. What was that like on a daily basis?
Well, it wasn't easy, that's for sure. I mean, if you campaign for a Vendée Globe participation, it's kind of like the next level. The budget requirements are very big. The boats are big. The teams are normally big, but really, if you try to start from nowhere, it's really hard. First to finance a boat, and then trying to get the budget together. Especially me being Swiss. In Switzerland, not many people know the Vendée Globe, and I'm from the German part, from Zurich. So not from the French part where the Vendée Globe is quite, how should I say, quite prominent. So I really had to do a lot of educating the potential partners, what it all entails and what the story is all about. And at the end, we managed to, how should I say, get the budget together. But as you said, it was one of the tightest budgets among all the 40 entrants. And it wasn't easy. We really had to consider every penny we spent on everything, whether it's worth it or if this is now the highest priority. And for me, yes, I'm the sailor and the skipper of the boat, but I'm also the CEO of the campaign. And the sleepless nights were not only on the boat while sailing the Vendée Globe, but also in the build-up, trying to figure out the finances and the whole commercial side of the campaign. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how did you decide where to, I mean, not only sort of spend your time, but also where you spend your money, being so limited?
In a way, I'm quite lucky and fortunate that I started professional sailing about 11 years ago. Before then, I did a lot of sailing, but I also did a business degree or a university degree in international business. And I also used to work in the private sector for a while in Zurich. So I'm quite good at financials and project management and stuff. And at the end, it's a tough business. And your revenue. Your revenue is quite well defined. You know when money is coming in and how much it is. And then on the expenses side, you just have to be very, very careful not to overspend in certain areas, and
Right.
to be able to deliver the campaign, that not suddenly, I don't know, 3 months before the Vendée Globe you realize you're out of money, and that's the end of the road. So you need a certain business acumen, I believe, to deliver a campaign anyway, even more importantly when the budget is limited.
Yeah, I mean, that's mad, isn't it? I suppose when you think about it, it's not just about you can't just go into it thinking money's no object and I can just totally focus on performance. I suppose yours was a bit more of a balancing act between making sure you didn't run out of money, making sure you put in the performance, making sure that you were delivering value to your sponsors, for example. Do you know what I mean? You were obviously trying to balance it all.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe it wasn't just me in this position. I think apart from very few teams, most teams have budget constraints. Money is always, in a way, a finite resource, and it doesn't grow on trees. So you always have to be careful on how to spend it, and also do the right projections, about the cash flow and about big refits, new set of sales, maybe potential damage that can happen any moment. That you also have a bit of a contingency in your budget to deal with any unforeseen circumstances. But then delivering value to the sponsors it's absolutely crucial now.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say that you deliver it with your sporting performance. But if you're absolutely honest with yourself, to get into the media and to get the reach and the exposure, if you want to do it purely from a sporting perspective, you have to be, I don't know, within the top 3 boats or maybe the top 5 boats to really be constantly in the news. If that's not possible for you or for me, and it wasn't possible for me, I knew I had one of the oldest boats in the fleet. Then you have to kind of become a bit more creative. And for us, it was, for instance, very important that we do a solid campaign on our social media channels. So I made a video every day, but then I was also always available for interviews. So while sailing the Vendée Globe, I did at least a live interview every day of these 99 days I was at sea.
I could have called you. I could have interviewed you mid-race.
Yeah, you should have given me. Yeah, you should have given me a ring. Absolutely. But you have to find the places where you can give a good return. And for me, we identified that just being open and transparent and giving an honest account of how it is to sail solo nonstop around the world in the Vendée Globe and kind of tell the story. And that was a success. All our sponsors are happy, and I'm happy too.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. So it does sound like a lot of, just doing the sailing sounds like stress enough, but running a business at the same time and, and being, like you said, being prepared for the unexpected. Stressful. So, international team, did you face any extra challenges because of that? Was there any language barriers or anything like that?
Yeah. It's definitely, it doesn't make life easier having such a decentralized and international team. Before I started the campaign, I lived in the UK for over 10 years. My wife is from the UK, from Hamble. And then the boat was based in France. So some of my technical employees, my boat captain and stuff, they were all based in Brittany. Then the sponsors were from Switzerland. Our head office is in Zurich. So already then you have kind of 3 countries, 3 cultures, all involved in one little project. It's not easy, but another good thing about my previous studies, my major is actually in cross-cultural management. So I was very aware of the differences in culture and what it can mean. And while there are certain challenges, there are also some, I think, advantages, because you get different viewpoints and different approaches to, for instance, solving a problem or attacking a challenge than having just, I don't know, all employees from the same town. So we really embraced it. And nowadays with technology, I think it's absolutely possible, and it's a challenge that you can overcome. And then you have the you just have the advantages, and you have to benefit these advantages.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you studied that, because that's quite a niche sort of subject to study. did you have, was this always with sailing in mind, or is it just so happened that you then ended up having to lead such a internationally sort of diverse team and you happen to have studied it?
Well, when I studied it, to be fair, I never thought really about sailing professionally full time. But I used to study in Zurich, and then I went for 2 years. I went to Asia. So I did some
Right.
work in Singapore and Hong Kong, and I studied a year in Taiwan. So I was always exposed to many different cultures, and I always also enjoyed spending time and living my life in different countries and surrounded by, in a way, foreign foreign cultures. And once I decided that the corporate career is not for me, and I want to really give professional sailing a go, I think this training and experience came in very handy, because nowadays everything is decentralized and international, and if you feel comfortable in this environment, it makes life much easier.
Yeah, no, oh my goodness, no, definitely. I love that. That's almost like a follow your dream moment. Do you know what I mean? Saying goodbye to the corporate world and
Absolutely.
following your
Yeah,
dream. I love that.
absolutely.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm going to use the worst pun ever here, but your campaign was anything but smooth sailing. Rewinding to 2022, the Route du Rhum, talk us through that dramatic sort of port starboard incident right at the start.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we have to even wind the clock back just a little bit more.
Oh, really?
We started our campaign quite late.
Okay.
We got the boat in April 2022, and I
Right.
knew then that qualifying and selection for the Vendée will be tight, that I have to
Right.
almost kind of finish every single race. And there's very little margin for error
Sure.
starting the campaign that late. So we did, we upgraded the boat. We did a lot of work, tried to make the boat always as reliable as possible, not as fast as possible. Reliability was always at the top of our mind. And then I sailed my first short race, which was the Défi Azimut in September. I managed to successfully finish this race solo, which was my first solo race. And then we went pretty much straight to the Route du Rhum. And first of all, the start was delayed because there was too much wind. Then we sat around for about, I think, 3 or 4 days until the actual start took place. And then, shortly after the start, 4 or 5 hours after the start, at one of the spectator gates, I had a port starboard incident with Kochi on board TMG Mori. And for me, this very moment was, it was a tough pill to swallow. In the very beginning, in the very moment, I thought that my whole Vendée Globe campaign was over. My bowsprit was snapped off. My crash box in the front of the boat was badly damaged. I had a hole in the side of the boat. I also noticed that I had a kind of a pierced outer skin underneath the waterline. So it was quite bad.
I mean, did you just say a hole in the side of the boat?
Yeah, well, a IMOCA or most carbon race boats, they're built in a sandwich construction. So you have an inner skin, and then you have Nomex or high density core in the middle, and then you have an outer skin. And my outer skin was pierced in multiple places, which is not ideal. So anyway, I still no, it's not ideal at all. But I was, how should I say, I was about 3 hours motor away from Saint-Malo. So while I started to motor back into the harbor, I started to make a couple of phone calls. And because I spent a lot of time in the industry, also especially in the UK, I knew some guys, and I also knew that some people followed me and followed my race. And actually they called me, some of my friends, boat builder friends, naval architects, composite engineers. They called me while I was still on the boat. They said, Ollie, if you need our help, let us know. We can be on the next ferry leaving in 2 hours. We can be in Saint-Malo at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. And I was like,
there's too much going on.
Please, I think I could use every little bit of help. Anyway, we then had to actually lift the boat out of the water. We did a 48-hour repair, and the guys did a fantastic job. And then I set off far behind the fleet on my own. I got into some quite bad weather in the Bay of Biscay, but I managed to finish this race. And yeah, I had a couple of these moments during my build up. As you said, it wasn't smooth sailing at all. And in the very moment, then it's never easy. But looking back, you always try to take every bit of positive learning from every negative experience. And I always try to find the silver lining anywhere. And I think from a mental perspective, it made me more resilient. And from a technical perspective, we really we learned a lot. Yeah. And I also learned how to sail the boat a little bit more conservatively. And it's not an inshore race. You don't have to shout starboard to the other competitor if the race is 3,500 miles long. You can also just bear away and go behind him. But that was I had to learn this lesson the tough way.
Oh my goodness! But there's so much going on. So I come from quite a sort of high level sporting background. So I played National League hockey, and you make my sport seem simple. Like all I had to do was get the ball and put it in the back of the net. Like I didn't have, I wasn't trying to do it in the middle of the ocean. I wasn't trying to do it on my own. I didn't have a hole in my boat. I didn't have to have people arriving where. It's crazy how much is going on.
Yeah, but that's also the beauty. Yeah, but that's also the beauty about sailing. You have a highly technological sport that is being done in a very dynamic environment. And unforeseen things can always happen. And I think if you're not willing or not ready to deal with these kind of circumstances or situations, then solo offshore sailing is definitely the wrong sport to be involved with.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. But also as well, I mean, you're out there doing it, but I mean, you mentioned your wife. Now I get the permission bit, because the support that she must need to give you to be able to do what you do is mind-blowing.
No, absolutely. No, it's a full all-encompassing thing if you go for a Vendée Globe campaign, especially on a smaller budget. My wife, she's also heavily involved in the campaign, and especially the first campaign, we were working 7 days a week, and with very little pay, if any pay, and the dream and the motivation has to be massive to then actually pull it off not just as a sailor, but also as a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read somewhere as well that you spoke about the challenges of wind holes. Firstly, I mean, explain what they are, but why are they so challenging? I thought that maybe like tough weather would be more challenging, but explain what that means.
Well, sailing in a lot of wind is actually quite easy. Everyone can sail in 20, 30, 40 knots. You just reduce the sail area, slow down a little bit, and you stay busy, and you kind of stay occupied, and you just sail through the storm. But if you're in a wind hole, meaning zero wind, for multiple days on end, then it becomes very difficult. And during the last Vendée Globe, I was stuck in a wind hole pretty much halfway around the course. I think I sailed about 10,000 miles, and I still had like 13,000 miles ahead of me. In the middle of the South Pacific. It's very cold, it's snowing, it's very gray, it's foggy. And
you're not selling it to
on a normal day, I don't know, I sail 400 or 500 miles a day, and then suddenly in this wind hole, you're happy if you sail 20 or 30 miles a day, and
not making much
there's
progress.
Nothing you can do, Yeah. There's nothing you can do. In a storm, you can stay occupied and you can stay busy, and you kind of react to a situation, and your input has an effect on your situation. But if you're stuck in a wind hole, it's very difficult, because you can't do anything about it, and you just look at the weather forecast and hope that some more wind is filling in at some point.
Right, so it's more sort of mentally hard than physically, then, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. But then the whole sport is mentally. I mean, physically, yes, it's a difficult sport, and you have to be fit, and you have to be willing to endure certain, how should I say, physical hardship. But the big part, I'm convinced, is taking part, in your head. You need a certain resilience to sail alone non-stop around the world.
Yeah, I can imagine. So let's talk about mental strength then, and mindset. I mean, I do. It's one of my favorite subjects, but. I mean, correct me if I've got this name wrong, but you've worked with Dr. Wolfgang, is it Genuine?
Yeah.
on mental resilience. So what are your sort of key takeaways on that journey?
Yeah, he's a brilliant guy, Wolfgang, my mental performance coach. So he's, on the one hand, he's a very successful leadership coach in the business world in the Anglo-Saxon region, but also he supports some athletes, and I'm now the first sailor that he supports. And basically, what we're doing, and we've been working together for the last, just over 3 years. I approach him with situations where I struggled on the boat. And this could be multiple, various different things. I might struggle with being on my own for a long time, or I might struggle with staying motivated when it's difficult, or I might struggle to make decisions. And I'm just pondering over options and don't actually make a point and move on. Anyway, all these problems, I then approach him, and with him, we then try to work out solutions, in a way, almost a bit like a toolbox of tools that I have in my head that I can then apply to deal with difficult situations. And I approach him with a problem. We try and find a solution or a tool to solve a problem like this. I then go out sailing again. I try to apply the tool that we developed. I come back with feedback. And in this way, we kind of refine the tool until I'm happy with it. And the thing is, whenever I have to apply one of these tools, it's normally in an extreme situation. I'm in some sort of crisis or problem. I might be exhausted, sleep deprived. So they have to be very simple to apply. And I always have to be able to also remember them. And therefore, we kind of focused on like 5-6 different tools that I can apply in various different situations to help me with my performance and to keep going.
I suppose performance-wise that must help, but also I bet you use those tools in everyday life as well, almost subconsciously without realizing, when it's life decisions or life problems. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, no, absolutely. All the situations that we encounter as solo sailors, I think they're very often directly transferable to situations that a everyday person experiences in his or her life. We might be in an extreme situation, and therefore it's also quite easy to define the problem and define a possible solution. But if you break it down to the mental challenge, the actual what you struggle with, it's something that every one of us faces on a regular basis in normal life.
Yeah, I mean, taking that even broader than sailing, though, I mean, when I've employed a lot of people, and quite often when I'm looking at their applications or their CV, I'm more interested in their sporting background than I am their education or what degree they may have or anything like that, because I actually think there's a lot in sport that you can learn, especially if you've played sport growing up as a child. There's a lot you take to your everyday life or your career that actually comes directly from sport, especially, either extreme mental sports like what you do, or also with team sports when it comes to, working together or leadership or resilience, and actually I think that sport in general is actually so much more transferable to everyday life skills than people realize.
Well, absolutely. And it's, I think nowadays the whole education system, well, I'm speaking now for the education system in Switzerland, but I'm sure it's the same in the UK. Learning hard skills is very easy. Learning a language or learning, I don't know, how to do some algebra or some geometry or physics or something. These are all hard skills and they're very easy to transfer. But these kind of implicit skills and competence, like some resilience and these things, it's much harder to learn. And I think sport is a perfect platform, especially if you start at a young age, to kind of incorporate this in your life, your general skill set.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. So one of the things I did see as well is about the concept of radical acceptance. So what's that mean? What does that mean?
Now, radical acceptance is one of these tools, and it's probably one of the most powerful ones that I have had to apply multiple times over the last couple of years. It's basically, radical acceptance is the scientific term for it. I translate it also to embrace this shit, because it's more, I can more easily grasp it. And it's about when you find yourself in a very difficult situation, in a crisis situation, that you have to accept the fact that you're in this bad situation. I'm a very positive person. My glass is always at least half full, but there are moments where you have to acknowledge the fact that your glass is empty. And only once you accept the fact that you're in a bad situation, you can start looking for solutions or ways out of this problem. And it's about accepting what you can't control and then taking charge of the areas where you can influence the outcome. And once you identify these areas, then you can start to work on solutions, and then you can start to work your way out of a bad situation. And on a sailing boat, you get it very often. But I think to every listener out there, if you think back to your last 6 months, I think everyone found himself or herself in a situation where, it was just shit. And you have to acknowledge that you are in a bad situation. And only once you accept your situation, then you can find a way out.
Yeah, but I think that it sounds so simple when we talk about it, and also probably in everyday life, because a bad situation you find yourself in is probably a lot slower moving. But when you're at crisis point and you're on a boat on your own, do you know what I mean? To be able to draw on these tools instantly without adding to any more stress that you're under is probably where the skill comes into it, and probably, why this is so useful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's, but it's also, it took me a while to be able to really identify the situation when I have to apply it, and then be able also in a way to apply it. But almost, once you accept that you're in a bad situation, your stress levels almost, or at least for me personally, my stress levels decrease, because at least I'm honest with myself and I don't try to hide from a fact or to hide from reality. Once I fully acknowledge that I'm in a bad position, it's almost like a certain weight is lifted from me, because I'm fully honest with myself, and then you can start to find a way out.
Right. So I suppose you're almost thinking, rather than going, oh gosh, I wish I wasn't in this situation, or what's my situation, or what's this, you skip that bit because you're like, I know what my situation is, and then you go straight to the solution finding.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I love that. Next time I'm in a bad situation, I'm going to be like, radical acceptance. Radical acceptance.
Think of me.
I will. I'll call you up. I'll say, talk me through the radical acceptance. This is how it goes. Awesome. Sure. So let's look ahead. Campaign 2. Tell me all about it. What's the plan?
Well, I mean, it was one of the first questions that I was asked at the press conference directly after the finish of the first one day, whether I want to do it again. God. Already before I crossed the finish line, I had to chat to my wife, and I said, look, the journalists, they will ask me whether or not I want to do it again. And I have to be honest with you, I think I would really like to do it again. So in a way, I asked her permission again, and she's like, no, let's do it. And it's true that I would absolutely love to do a second campaign. Having said that, it has to be a slightly different one. So I think the first campaign, I call it in a way a typical startup campaign. It was organized chaos. We had very limited resources. Getting to the finish was our objective. And now for the next campaign, I would like to do a more competitive campaign with a faster boat, with a healthier budget, therefore, and overall just make it more competitive, make it more professional. And I'm working, or we all are in the team working very hard to make this a reality. And that's why also at the moment I'm spending a lot of time in Switzerland, wearing a white shirt and a suit rather than my sailing gear, bobbing around somewhere on the boat, because it takes a lot of time to find the right partners again, and then find a potential new boat and find the right location to base the campaign out of. So it's busy times at the moment.
So do you know where you're going to base the campaign out of yet?
Well, at the moment, so the last 4 years we were based in France, in Port-la-Forêt, which is a small port in Brittany, with a lot of IMOCAs based there. And that was the right place for us to be for the first campaign. The next campaign, we believe, the way it looks now, is it will be based on the south coast of the UK.
Which is, and I'm not biased, the greatest place in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the connection with the UK then? What, is it just a good place? Have you got any, you said your wife was from here, didn't you?
Absolutely. So my wife is English, and I have
Okay.
spent 10 years in the UK, in Hample. At the same time, I used to work with Alex and the Hugo Boss team for 5 years,
Okay.
6 years, out of Gosport. So therefore, we have a big network of
Yeah.
very capable and competent people here in the UK. Now, it's not a, you know, black and white answer. Where's the best place? Every place has its pros and cons. France is
Right.
very good
Okay.
because it's part of the EU, and most races start in
Mhm.
France, so the logistics are somewhat, easier.
Right.
There is a lot
Yeah.
of knowledge around as well. But for us, I do love the UK. I'm very happy living there and spending a lot of time there. And then we have this network and a certain experience in the UK, and I think it's very valuable. Your your labor, the staff, the team members that work for you is the most important resource that you have, and you have to
Right.
make smart decisions that you can also, attract the right people that end up working
Yeah.
for the team and sailing your boat. And right now, I think the UK will be the place where we find the best overall package.
That's awesome. So I'm based in Warsash. I was at Hamble at the weekend, actually, at the yacht club there. So the next time we do a podcast, let's do it. Let's do it in person.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, no, I was there last week, and I'll be there again in 10 days' time. Yeah, so I'm often in Hamburg.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the sponsors that you had on board for campaign one,
Mhm.
are any of them hooked? Are they returning for campaign number two?
Yes, absolutely. And that's in a way, the beautiful thing, and that's what maybe also fascinates me the most about these Wonder Globe campaigns. I love sailing and I love solo sailing, but I'm absolutely fascinated by the fact that we can create value for our partners. So our
Yeah.
former title partner, Burgerstein Vitamins, they turned around and said they would like to be part of our campaign again, which is kind of, makes me super happy because it shows that they give us some money, and
Mhm.
4 years later, they say, you know what, it was worth it for us. We did get our
Right.
return and we want to do it again. And that's the case with pretty much every single of our partners. So they all join up
Excellent.
again. But because we do have more competitive objectives and we need a higher budget, some of these companies, they can't just triple their investment or with
No.
us. And therefore, we are looking for a new title partner to take
Hmm.
up a significant space within our team.
Hmm.
But the existing sponsors, they will stay on the boat.
But then for any potential partners that might be listening to this, there's no better sort of, I suppose, testimonial to you that your existing partners have come back. Do you know what I mean? That they probably went into campaign number one quite blind. Will we see value? Will we not? But the fact that they've come back and they're doing campaign number two is a wonderful advert for how much value they have got in real life.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a testimonial that's worth, I don't know, worth gold for me personally, at least. And it also gives us some credibility from a professional standpoint, not just from a sailing standpoint, that I actually crossed the finish line. That was very important too. But having our partners renewing contracts is testament that we were also able to deliver on the commercial front. Now, one big difference to the last campaign will be that our aim is to compete in the ocean race,
Right.
which goes around the world in 2027 in about 9 legs. So we have 9 legs going around the world. It starts in the Mediterranean in Alicante, finishes in Saudi Arabia, and it's how should I say, it's a much more, the focus is more commercial than the Vendée Globe. The Vendée Globe is a very, how should I say, very French event. You start in France, you disappear for 90 days, and you come back to the same port. The commercial value there is somewhat difficult to see and somewhat limited, I
Right.
believe. But with an ocean race where we stop in almost every continent for multiple weeks, we can do activation in all the ports. There's a real commercial benefit and value. And so I'm confident that we'll find the right partner that suits our campaign and also sees the potential in our campaign.
Yeah, awesome. So looking back on it in its entirety, what's been your proudest moment? You know, what time, can you remember sitting there and thinking, wow, look what I've achieved?
Well, I think two moments come to mind, and they're in a way also the most obvious moment. I think one of them is at the start of the Vendée Globe. I don't know if you've ever been in Les Sables d'Olonne at the start. It's crazy. I mean, it's this small town on the Atlantic coast of France, and on start day there are 450,000 people spectating. It's one of the biggest sporting events in France. The atmosphere is unique. The noise and everything, and being one of these 40 sailors that goes out through the channel to the start line of the Vendée Globe was a very, very special moment. I definitely felt proud there for a while, even though it's not easy. It's not really a moment to celebrate, because yes, you're proud having made the cut and being at the start line of the Vendée Globe, but at the same time, you know that you're about to set off solo non-stop around the world. So that's kind of a bit of a little bit of a bummer on top of your emotions. Yeah, exactly.
But the
so
journey to get to
really,
that point is massive, isn't it?
yeah. And then the second moment is crossing the finish line of the Vendée Globe. Also there, it's a very unique moment and very emotional because, well, yeah, you sailed solo non-stop around the world. You're one of very, very few people in the world who's ever achieved it. But then also, the contrast between being in complete isolation for 99 days to being surrounded by thousands of people and actually realizing suddenly that you've achieved something remarkable. Because yes, sure, when I'm on the boat sailing and I send my videos off and my team tells me, oh, your video has been watched, I don't know, 30,000 times. Sure, it's great numbers, but there's no real feedback. I'm still on my own. But then you cross the finish line, your sponsors come on board, your family comes on board, and then you go into the harbor and there are thousands of people there that just came down to see you coming in. It's quite a unique, special moment. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, you gave me goosebumps just talking about it. I love it. Oh my gosh, how good. Okay, so let's totally flip it. At what point were you at your lowest and you thought, do you know what? I'm just going to stop. I can't do this anymore.
There were points where I was very low, but there was never a point where I said, let's stop it. For me, it's also one little thing. It's almost a tool, but it's not really. For me, quitting is never an option until it's the only option. I think
even then, it's not an option, is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if you start considering quitting as an option, it's only a matter of time until you quit. So for me, quitting was never an option. But there were times in the build up to the Vendée Globe when the finances were very bleak. For instance, you mentioned the collision I had during the Route du Rhum. I mean, it's very easy to say, you know what, this is beyond repair. Let's just stop it. That's the easy way. That's the easy route.
Yeah.
But no, that never happened. And then during the Vendée Globe itself, sure, there are moments when I think, what am I doing here? Especially like, for instance, the wind hole you mentioned earlier. I was halfway through the race. I didn't move for 5 days. The boats ahead of me had wind, sailed away. The boats behind me closed in because they had wind. And I was surrounded by this big high pressure system that was just for me blocking my way. Oh, no. And yeah, but then, the Vendée Globe in a way also makes it easy for you not to quit, because even if I say I quit, I'm still alone on my boat, 2,000 miles away from the next land. So there is no easy way out. Not like you mentioned that you used to play field hockey. In field hockey, if you're fed up, you just walk off the pitch. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
And within an hour, you're at home. And for me, or in the Vendée Globe, you don't have this option. And I think therefore the barrier, the threshold to actually quit is much higher, and realistically, I never considered it.
Well, I think, I guess the other thing I do apart from playing hockey is I run marathons, and everything you're saying in my head, I'm like, it's an endurance event, and it's exactly like that. I can think of moments in the London Marathon and I dreamt of the London Marathon my whole life. And I can remember maybe being at like 21, 22 miles and thinking, this is the worst pain I've ever been in. And if I'd have thought I could just quit, I probably would have done. But I didn't let that enter my head. And I knew the feeling of crossing the finish line would far outweigh the pain I was in then. So it's probably a similar, you balance that up, don't you? And if you,
exactly,
I used a lot of visualization. So I used to visualize, crossing that finish line, because then I'd be, is the glory of and the feeling of elation of crossing that finish line, is that going to outweigh the feeling of pain now? And it always did. So you almost then get this extra strength, don't you?
Exactly. And hardship is temporary, quitting lasts forever. So therefore you don't quit.
Oh my God. I think you've just nicked my last question, because my last question to you was going to be, what one quote do you strive to live by? But that sounds exactly it.
Well, yeah, that's we can keep it with this one. Yeah, it's a good one, I think. Yeah, you don't
Repeat
quit
it for me
without
again.
a very, very, very good reason. That hardship is temporary, and but quitting lasts forever.
Oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. It has been so good to talk to you. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I am a powerboat fan, so actually I've learned a lot, and I've got a lot more respect for sailing after speaking to you. So thank you so much for giving me this time.
Thank you, Hollie. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
I can't wait to speak to you soon, and I'll see you in Hamburg.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, then it would be awesome if you could leave a rating or a review. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen to us again. See you soon.